Hi, so this is the latest video in a sequence showing how we swapped the engine and the generator out on the boat over the last winter. And this particular video shows how I got the main engine out and the beams and things that I used for moving it. And then once I got it out, we were kind of held by the COVID-19 virus for a few weeks before we could actually get the engine out of the boat. And it shows how we rigged to get it out and the protection we put around everything to lift the engine out of the boat. So I hope you enjoy the video. So before we could begin dismantling the engine, we had to take a few photos and check where all the wires were and where we were going to lift the engine from, how much clearance there was, how we were going to deal with removing the engine supports. So lots of things to do before you can actually remove the engine. Well, what have we been up to for the last few days? Had a couple of days off really. Went through to Owen Sales to get our mainsail. We drop our mainsail off so that they can do some work on that. And we also took the spray hood and the bimini and a few things to get some modifications done on those. So they're through there. And today I've been fiddling around with bits and pieces for removing the engine. And I'll maybe just talk you through why I've decided what we're doing. So instead of bringing the engine out through here into the main stateroom at the aft of the vessel, we're going to bring it out through the side door into the engineering technical room. The reasons mainly are all the pipework that's in the way that I'd want to remove, this steering cable which runs down to a series of shift blocks down here. Probably have to remove those, and then I'll have to build something that brings the engine up, and I'm not convinced that it will clear this corner. I'd have to be a bit of shuggling around, as they say locally. Have to move it around, maybe tip it slightly to get it out of there. So the task today is to sort out the floor here, build a little frame for that, bolt in place the left beam for the engine, and get that all positioned. So this will be the side door if it does come out this way. It will be a lift up, try and turn and see if I can get it through the door and then lift it further and get it out here and into the area which is sort of the technical room area, because I've taken the doors off, and then slide it up here, maybe lift it from here up into the saloon or slide it up the floor. I began dismantling the engine, the sides of the engine. I took off the heat exchanger, and that was a bit of a struggle because the studs wouldn't come clear. I couldn't lift it out until I removed the studs. So these are just some sequences of me trying different ways of lifting that out of there. Sure this is going to come off easily. Let's see. And I had to remove a couple of the studs using a couple of lock nuts on the end of them and take them out completely so that I could then get my hands around it and be able to, and enough clearance to lift it out. So this is what the engine looked like with the heat exchanger off. There's still a few parts to come off on this side, but basically that's where we went to with this side. See, we've started moving the engine. I've cracked the joint between the sail drive and the engine, so I know it moves, and I've got some high density polythene under the engine mount so I can slide them forward. I'm hoping to get about 6 inches movement in total, and that should be enough to get me the sail drive out the end there. I may have to move this support, one thing I've thought about, onto the top of the cross beam that runs here so it's out of the way of the engine, but I'm going to try it and see what happens, see how much movement I get. It would save me fiddling around with that again. So although I'd cleared a lot of things from this side of the engine,
and taken them off completely. I did have to look at the other side of the engine to remove the alternators and other things in the way.
So I'm returning to lifting the engine out through this door, which is the door to the technical room out of the engine room, and bringing it out through this door, which is the technical room door. There's plenty of space there. The issues are the width, which is 460mm, which I've got the engine down to that size. I've checked it with a bit of a gauge. So what we've done is we've built a frame, rather like in the aft stateroom. I'm just finishing it off here. I need to trim this piece here to bring this across, and that connects in with the beam that came from the after stateroom, and this prop here, and that goes down to the sole of the boat. So basically I've got a connection up here that will allow me to slide the engine out over to here. It's bolted in here. The end of this beam here is connected in and welded in and bolted in at the top, and I've also got a single bolt, a 10mm 12mm bolt that goes through there into the woodwork. I'll tighten that up. I'll put some support on it. I was going to put some screws in here, but I think because of all the insulation, I don't think that'll be really very effective. So this prop is going to be the main support this end, and that should be fairly solid, supporting that way. It doesn't quite go in square because of the position of the end of the light system up there, and I don't want to damage that, so I've come in at a slight angle, but it should be fine.
So while I was removing the engine, there was a lot of ancillary cleaning work to do, so a lot of the cable trays had to be removed. So I cleaned them with solvents and to get the grease off them so that they would go back, and then I actually marked a lot of them, in fact all of them, with where they came from on the insides, so when I came to put them back I would know where they went.
So the task today is to sort out the floor here, build a little frame for that, bolt in place the lift beam for the engine, get that all positioned, and then see what we can do about getting the lift on the engine and take this weight off it so we can get the sail drive out.
This is me rigging the little chain block that I used to lift the engine. It was the smallest I could find, which gave me the head clearance that I needed to get the engine out. It was very effective, very lightweight it looks, but actually it carried the weight pretty well. You can see me giving the engine a bit of a lift here to clear it from the engine mounts, and we managed to lift it up so far and then move it across in the bay. And then it was just a question of fiddling around, taking off engine mounts and things that got in the way, and turning it as it came up so that it would come through the engine side door. The videos show it being quite a straightforward process, this, but there was a lot of head scratching and trying different things, propping it so I could adjust the chain pull as well, so it isn't obvious. There was only just enough headroom to get the engine through the door. As an aside, you'll see I'm wearing a kind of back support. I've got a blue back support. It's like elastic that holds my shoulders back. And in a few of the videos you'll see me wearing an orange waist back support, and I need those if I'm lifting and tugging things and leaning over things, just to protect my back. So this is me just positioning some high density polythene cutting boards, chopping boards underneath there, so that I can slide it on those into the main saloon.
Well, it might not be the most elegant solution, but at least it's got the motor out anyway.
You can see that even with that piece of red plastic underneath there to help it slide, it wasn't sliding very easily. Perhaps I should have used some grease, but too late for that at this point. So engine out, really. Great relief at this point that it came out of the hole. So as you can see, I managed to get the engine out of the engine bay and into the technical room, and slid it a little bit further, as you'll see in the next slide. And at that point, that was the time we got shut down by COVID-19, so basically had quite a few weeks off until we were ready to start again.
As you can see, this is all the pieces that represent the engine and generator that I've taken out. They're just scattered everywhere at the moment. I'm going to take some home tonight, and I think I'm going to arrange with the yard to take some other bits home. Mary's cooker's at the back of there somewhere. She wants that out, so she can put that up for sale.
This is me getting ready to lift all the parts out, protecting the companionway with plywood and cardboard. The yard crane just lowered his hook into the boat. We managed to lift the sail drive out.
Yeah.
And then the hook came back and was swapped over to the generator, and that got lifted out of the companionway. A piece of wood behind me is just to protect the timber work and slide it up in the last few moments before it goes out up into the air. And then rather than struggling with it, we used the opportunity to lift the cooker out as well. And last but certainly not the lightest was the main engine that went out very easily. and then it was just a case of clearing up the various bits of timber and fitting the ladder back, the companionway ladder back into place, and removing all the, well, I had it temporarily tied up with pieces of rope to make it easier to take it on and off every time I came in.
So why did you not get video then?
There's too many weights and stuff to come down to be able to drive it.
So Mary did a great job of giving the engines an initial clean so they look presentable for sale, and make them easier to handle so that we didn't get dirty moving them around.
So these are all the bits that are now home: engine, generator, crane we've used to lift everything, generator, new generator, new engine, all wrapped up, and then a sail drive under there. So yes, there's a lot of stuff that you have to shift around when you're doing these type of projects. So there we go. So I hope you enjoyed that video. It was probably the major part of the work that we wanted to do, was to lift the engine out. The next video shows us preparing the engine bay for the new engine, what we had to do to the coverings on the inside of that, and then there's a little bit of work on the sail drive and what we did for that, and also the preparation work for the exhaust, the wet exhaust that we needed for the main engine. So I'll see you next time for the next video.